It's a great pleasure for me to be here and to have an opportunity to share with you some of my experience in terms of university community engagement, and in particular to talk about the development of the implementation of Simon Fraser University's vision to be Canada's engaged university. But I do so with some humility, particularly after having visited here for the past 2 days, because it is truly inspiring to see the efforts that are being made and the programs that are being implemented here at the University of Ibagué and the work that you're doing. And it really brings home to me what I think is important to say right at the outset, and that is university engagement is going to be expressed very differently in different places. It should be, because it has to attend to the cultural context of the communities you're engaging with. It has to attend to the institutional realities of the institution and its history. So it will play out differently. And therefore, the lessons that I may share with you from Simon Fraser may or may not be transferable or even useful here, and that's for you to determine. But I hope, at least in sharing the experience with Simon Fraser and university engagement, that I can share some experiences that provoke some discussion and are helpful to you. What I propose to do today then is 3 things. I want to introduce you to Simon Fraser University as I found it when I became president in 2010. I came from the University of Victoria to SFU as a new president in 2010. I want to discuss the nature and outcome of the strategic planning process that produced the vision to be the engaged university, because that was not our identity before I arrived. And I want to share examples of how that vision has contributed to the subsequent development of the university. So we'll start. So this is a photo of SFU's original campus. It opened in 1965 on top of a mountain. Maybe you can't see that just how much of a mountain it is from this site because it's taken from above, but it's a pretty high mountain just outside the city of Vancouver. And the location was very deliberate. It was at a time when I think the prevailing view was you want to keep universities safely away from communities. You don't want universities to be contaminated by ideas from communities. You want them to be ivory towers, to be citadels where people can pursue knowledge in a pure environment, uncontaminated by the ideas of the communities they serve. And so Simon Fraser was set up very much with that in mind in this mountaintop, isolated location. And yet, despite that, even back then in the 1960s, SFU students and faculty were not going to put up with being isolated. They had a strong interest in connecting with communities. They did it through political activism, and they did it through socially relevant research. In fact, if you were to read the history of Simon Fraser University, referencing this time period, it's called Radical Campus, because it was a time in the 60s in Canada, North America at least, of radicalism, and the students reflected that. They were politically out to change the world. And so even though they were on top of a mountain, they often got off the mountain, and their ideas certainly related to communities around them. For the next 45 years, SFU gained strength and grew, adding faculties that embraced a broad range of disciplines and significantly expanded its physical presence and its research capabilities. So in 2010, the year I became president, SFU boasted over 30,000 students, 3 campuses, and was ranked as one of Canada's leading comprehensive research universities. This is a picture of our downtown Vancouver campus. This campus was established in the late 1980s by some visionary leaders who thought the university shouldn't, in fact, be disconnected from communities. Views were starting to change, and that the university and the community would benefit from a closer relationship. So they established the university in a district where heritage buildings were falling into disrepair and social infrastructure was eroding. No doubt the real estate was a little less expensive in that area, but they did it with social purpose. They saw SFU as an opportunity to really help to revitalize a struggling part of downtown Vancouver. It also, of course, helped to bring the university closer to the community. So the university was able to relate directly to the downtown business community, to other communities, to deliver continuing studies programs in a more immediate way, to engage in applied research, experiential learning, and other outreach activities within the community using its own facilities. Then in the late 1990s, SFU took on another opportunity, an opportunity to establish a 3rd campus in yet another neighborhood at risk. And this is what it looked like back then. This is a declining shopping mall in a community called Surrey. It's about a half an hour's ride on the subway or the SkyTrain from Vancouver. And at this time, this shopping mall was in serious decline. The whole area in which it was located was seen as one that was struggling. And even though Surrey itself is and was BC's fastest growing community, this was truly a neighborhood at risk. Here's what happened when the university became present in the community. That's the same shopping mall, believe it or not. We had a wonderful architect who didn't believe in simply taking away value, but adding to it and recapturing it. And so what happened was the shopping mall was converted into a bustling mixed-use complex. He ripped the roof off the shopping mall. He built a university on top of it. He put an office tower next to it. And he integrated academic, retail, and commercial space in a way that provided a really interesting mix of uses and mix of players, and of course, a great context for engagement. Again, SFU's presence here served as a catalyst for transformation. Surrey subsequently designated the area as its new city center, and that in turn sparked the construction of residential and office buildings, plus a public library and a new city hall and other public infrastructure. And the campus itself became a hub for community programs and research collaborations. Now, back up on the mountain, my predecessors couldn't figure out a way to take the university down to the community, but they did the next best thing. They decided to bring a community up to the university. And using some of the land that had been granted to the university on the east side of the university, that's the university behind, they undertook a development to build a city called, bit of a pun, University with a C. And the idea was to build a city that would create a closer relationship between the university and the broader community by creating a portion of that broader community right up on the mountain on a portion of land with which the university was originally endowed. I might mention, because the person who did this was truly a visionary, the land that had been granted to the university was spread out over the whole mountain. The default plan for development would have been to have a sort of suburb around the university. He thought for both environmental reasons and for social reasons, it would be much better to preserve the bulk of that land and create a much highly dense community closer to the university where people could relate to the university more directly, and they'd have this wonderful natural park area protected around them. And that, in fact, is what's happened, as you can see in some of the forested area around University. In addition to providing a range of housing options, University boasts an elementary school. It boasts the world's greenest childcare. This childcare has a zero carbon footprint. It has a high street with stores, with amenities, and with restaurants. Students, staff, and faculty no longer need to leave the mountain for goods and services. And conversely, residents of University have gained access to SFU programs and facilities such as our swimming pool and gym. So that's the campus tour. And I hope it helps you to understand why, when I took up my position in 2010, I found the physical characteristics of the university pretty appealing, pretty exciting, particularly for someone who came with a view that engagement was something that I believed universities should put more emphasis upon. But there was also a programmatic dimension. Programmatic things have been happening at the university. So despite its growing research strengths, SFU thankfully continued to remain committed and devoted to the learning enterprise in both its graduate and undergraduate programs. The university's burgeoning physical connections with communities were mirrored by expanding programmatic connections, including a commitment to experiential learning represented by one of Canada's most comprehensive work integrated learning programs. We call it co-op programming. I'm not sure if that term is the one that's also used here. We also developed an impressive commitment to community education and to community engaged research. Action research, it was called in the older days, but now it's broadened and become community-based research within the universities. And that predated my arrival in pockets. It wasn't a key feature of the university, but it was certainly a feature of the university. So for these reasons and more, my pitch to the university when I applied to become president, and as I went around as a new president, was that SFU was a university that was student-centered, research-driven, and community-engaged. Yet I found an institution that did not fully appreciate its own strengths or how they might provide the basis for a forward-thinking vision. And Alfonso and I have talked a lot about this, about the importance of differentiating yourself as a university in a way that shows you are the best of your kind. You're not the best of someone else's kind, but you're the best of your kind. And being in a community with a major, older, richer university like UBC, if our goal was simply to try to replicate what UBC did, we would inevitably be the second best university in Vancouver. We didn't want to be the second best. At least I didn't want us to be the second best. I wanted us to be the best. And to do that, we needed to have a vision in which we could hold ourselves out as the best of our kind. So in 2011, we launched a strategic visioning process that engaged students, staff, faculty, and alumni in developing that vision. And because of our strong community presence and connections, and because I had an idea of where I hoped this would go, we sought advice from people outside the university, including business groups, Indigenous organizations, cultural organizations, NGOs, local governments. And in this process, we asked two overarching questions. We asked many questions, but the two overarching ones were this: what do you most like about the university? Pretty simple question. And how might we harness those qualities that you most like to make SFU the best university of its kind? And what we heard back overwhelmingly was that people valued the extent of our engagement. Now, there were other things people valued too, but the engagement theme, thankfully, came through very strongly. Students, for example, really emphasized the benefits they gained through community-based learning, as well as the value they acquired from their exposure to the research enterprise. Researchers talked about the inspiration and vitality they gained from the creativity of their students and the stimulus and gratification they achieved directing their energies at issues facing communities, both at home and abroad, where they could see their research really making a difference. And communities, who we consulted, communities, of course, valued our capacities to enhance their quality of life through our impact, through our infrastructure, through the influence of our community programming, and of course, the contributions of our faculty, staff, and students. And what emerged was the vision of an engaged university. I'll admit, curated a little bit by the new president, but nonetheless, one that I think had authenticity. It had a history within the university that supported it, and it had throughout the university a strong sympathy and indeed degree of support amongst those various constituencies that really mattered: students, faculty, staff, and the communities we serve. We're all highly supportive of the idea of the engaged university. But rather than tell you what that vision was, if this works, I brought along a little animation. This is actually, when we launched the vision, we wanted to find a way to make it relatable for students, relatable to the community. And this is what we came up with. So let me share with you an animated account of what it is for SFU to aspire to become, because this is right when we launched the vision, the engaged university. Hopefully
At Simon Fraser University, we've spent the past year creating a strategic vision that builds on our strengths and looks to the future. We talked to thousands of people, students, staff, and faculty, as well as our alumni, supporters, and others throughout the broader community. What emerged is the vision of an engaged university, and not just any engaged university. SFU's vision is to be the leading engaged university, defined by its dynamic integration of innovative education, cutting-edge research, and far-reaching community engagement. But what does it mean to be an engaged university? Our vision is founded on three goals: engaging students, engaging research, and engaging communities. These goals don't operate independently of each other. They're interconnected. Indeed, it's their interaction that gives the engaged university its distinctive character. So when we say we're committed to engaging students, we not only mean that we'll provide them with a high-quality classroom environment in which to acquire knowledge and critical thinking skills, we also mean that we will harness our research strengths to enable students to learn firsthand the joys of discovery and to develop aptitudes for lifelong learning. And we'll give them opportunities to engage with communities close to home and around the globe, so they can gain essential workplace skills, cultural knowledge, and civic understanding. With this spectrum of learning opportunities, SFU students will benefit from the knowledge, skills, and experiences that prepare them for life in an ever-changing and challenging world. Likewise, when we say we're committed to engaging research, We mean not only that we will support discovery-based research in the laboratory and the library, we also mean that we will engage students more fully in the research enterprise so that it benefits from their energy and their fresh ideas. Communities provide another important source and destination for research. We will therefore provide our researchers with opportunities to participate in community-based research and enable them to mobilize their knowledge to illuminate the public and to address issues of community concern. By becoming a world leader in knowledge mobilization, SFU will gain support for all our research activities. While it's true that all universities make some effort to serve communities, for many it's an afterthought. At SFU, engaging communities is in our DNA, and it's a key component of our strategic vision. Indeed, our aim is to be Canada's most community-engaged research university. And given the community connections and contributions of our 3 campuses, we're well on the way. For almost a quarter century, our Vancouver campus has enlivened the downtown and created an educational precinct that the Vancouver Sun calls the intellectual heart of the city. In the process, we've restored key heritage buildings and revitalized a neighborhood at risk. Our decade-old Surrey campus has been heralded by leading architects and planners as a prime example of suburban transformation and is contributing to the development of a thriving new city centre in one of Canada's fastest-growing regions. Our original campus atop Burnaby Mountain is an iconic structure built almost 50 years ago, but it was physically isolated. Given we couldn't take the campus down to the community, we decided in the 1990s to bring the community up to the campus by creating Universe City, a model sustainable community that continues to win awards for development and design. This fusion of university and community is essential to our vision of an engaged university. Other foundational principles that strengthen and support the vision are academic and intellectual freedom, diversity, internationalization, respect for Aboriginal peoples and cultures, a supportive and healthy work environment, and sustainability. Our challenge now is to make this vision a reality, and in doing so, to show how an engaged university can unlock the talents and potential of its students, unleash the creativity and capacity of its researchers, and contribute in every way possible to the social, economic, environmental, and cultural well-being of the communities it serves. A vision, says Rosabeth Moss-Cantor, is not just a picture of what could be. It's an appeal to our better selves, a call to become something more. In short, it's an invitation to engage. Please join us.
Well, you can see that was a bit of a sales pitch, but a sales pitch with purpose and a call to action to the university community and to the broader community to support what we do. And I hope it gives you a sense of what the vision to be Canada's engaged university was all about. This is that vision in written form, a little less animated, and it gives a fuller account of the actual goals and objectives that were set. But it was all reducible to one page. It was not a long, weighty document. And I'll show later on how it fits within a larger planning framework of the university. It became the core informing and animating part of that planning framework and influenced everything we do. It became a touchstone for everything that we did, even though it is fairly economical in the number of words it has, and hopefully fairly comical in the account that I just gave you, but instructive as well. By committing to foster a dynamic integration of innovative education, cutting-edge research, and far-reaching community engagement, we made it our mission to show how a major research university can maximize its contributions to the communities it serves while providing enhanced opportunities for learning, research, and impact. And I want to emphasize the fact this is a large university with a very complex set of structures and traditions. And so what we tried to do was to bring this vision of engagement to an existing research culture and start to use the vision to try to bring about change. It's a very different approach, I think, than the one that's being taken here, which I'm in awe of, which looks more at the structure itself and how can we change it at the outset. We did not try to do that. We tried to create a vision and hopefully draw people along as we went along and bring about change in an iterative way. So in the succeeding years, that vision of engagement did indeed inform every aspect of our operation, not just in relation to education, research, and public programming, but also in the way we developed and used our land and how we managed our financial resources and how we nurtured and maintained relationships with stakeholders and communities. I love an example in our downtown campus. We were in need of a food service provider. And normally what large universities would do is you put out a contract for a single food service provider. But we knew if we did that, we would exclude a whole bunch of small providers in the local community who could provide food and who could benefit from the opportunity. And so we put out a contract that required any provider to have partners that would be representative of people in the community as a part of the bid. And indeed, we got a bid that came in with a multiplicity of providers, indigenous, ethnic, from all sorts of different ways of life. And what I love about it is subsequently, when we were hosting events, people would compliment us on the diversity of our food offerings. So it was just a wonderful example of how you do, by doing good, you do well. I mean, by doing the right thing by these local entrepreneurs who are struggling to try to establish themselves as food providers in a very difficult part of Vancouver, we actually provided a much better food service for everyone. In any event, we also, of course, focus very much on the learning mission and increase dramatically community-based learning opportunities through a range of programs such as Semester in Dialogue, Change Lab, and City Studio. And I'm happy to describe those later on for you. This happens to be City Studio. We added programming in socially relevant areas such as environmental restoration, indigenous business, and sustainable energy engineering. And we made entrepreneurship training available to students across all disciplines. So you could be a history student or philosophy student, but you could also get a diploma in entrepreneurship. Or you could, if you had an entrepreneurship idea, get support in bringing that idea to market. With respect to research, we developed a university-wide innovation strategy that supported research mobilization, economic development, and social innovation. Social innovation was a very important component. We wanted to show that our innovation agenda was not just driven by economics or profit, but was driven by social values and goals as well. In the process, we established Venture Labs. This, in fact, is an economic incubator, and it became the most successful business accelerator in Western Canada, serving the community. It does also serve students who go through our student entrepreneurship program, but it actually has served the broader community and attracted entrepreneurs to Vancouver to work with the university on some very exciting new innovations. We launched a major community-engaged research initiative to support the social, economic, and environmental well-being of BC communities. In fact, it's not shown in this slide, but one of my favorite things, having visited the local museum, which used to be a prison, is we took over a former police station in downtown Vancouver, a portion of it, to create a community-engaged learning hub, transforming what had been seen as a site of some oppression by the local community into a site of support and economic and social development. At the same time, we made institution-wide commitments to achieve reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, part of a Canada-wide commitment that came out of an initiative called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that most universities across Canada have taken very seriously. But I would like to think that we took it especially seriously and moved forward with a whole reconciliation plan to reflect those commitments, as well as to model environmental sustainability in all we did. Major commitments around transforming the university into one that was a model of environmental sustainability in which we could all be proud. In addition to infusing greater community engagement in our educational programs and research activities, we extended our physical footprint on all 3 campuses, but we did it with purpose. For example, we created a social innovation center in downtown Vancouver. The bottom 2 floors here are that center. We constructed a sustainable energy engineering building in Surrey. We developed an art museum on Burnaby Mountain. This is still under construction, by the way. It got changed a few times, but it's going to open very soon. We greatly expanded community programming through a revitalized Center for Dialogue that works with governments and stakeholders locally and internationally to bridge differences and develop solutions on important matters of public policy, using dialogue as the major means in order to achieve outcomes that hopefully are workable and will gain support from the community. We established community engagement offices that coordinate and deliver program and services to address community needs. We established a signature program at the very time we launched the vision to really give it a concrete or a reference point called SFU Public Square. SFU Public Square is a signature initiative of the vision that offers year-round programming to foster public understanding and dialogue on the major issues of the day, and engages the community on a whole range of things. It holds a major forum once a year where it brings in speakers who interact with community members. But it's not just speakers, it's a whole process of community engagement that SFU Public Square undertakes. And we undertook partnerships with cultural organizations. This is an example. Through the Indian Summer Festival, we became a founding partner with this festival, which has become a mainstay of Greater Vancouver and the summer arts theme, showing our commitment to local arts and local culture, and in this case, a very important local ethnic community. The focus on engagement, so beneficial to communities, has, in my view, and I don't think I'm alone in this, brought enormous benefits to the university. Students who enjoy co-op and other community learning opportunities are better informed and equipped for their careers in business, government, and civil society. A few examples there. Our researchers' work is more relevant, responsive, and better informed because of their close community connections. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. At the same time, SFU continued to excel in traditional university rankings. Now, we had a little discussion about rankings recently. I'm not a big fan of rankings, but I will admit that I used rankings in order to reassure people and to provide validation for what we're doing. And I did that in two ways. First, to reassure the academic community and those outside the university that all of this change that was taking was not coming at the price of our academic standing. Maclean's is the leading Canadian ranking system, and within the category of comprehensive universities, which, by the way, is code word for universities that are not encumbered by medical schools, but they're research-intensive universities. We, as you can see, continue to rank #1 throughout this entire period. And we also, but in the process, we also became very much seen as a leader in terms of community engagement, and we're looked to by other universities. This is a report that was done by us in partnership with the McConnell Foundation, part of their RECODE initiative, that became a very important report for universities across Canada because it really set out a way in which universities could maximize social infrastructure using all of their resources: financial, research, physical, education, relational resources. And so SFU's reputation as an engaged university translated into us becoming an institution that was looked to by others to inform what they might want to do. Now, then this thing came along called the Times Higher Education Impact Ratings. And again, I'm not a big fan of rankings, but I prefer a ranking that is based on the UN Social Development Goals to one that's based on traditional peer-reviewed tribes. And so after reluctantly not participating the first year, we participated the second year, which was my last year as a presidency, and we were kind of happy to achieve the world's top ranking for sustainable cities and communities in the world. And that did, I must admit, provide some real validation, particularly with some of our supporters and with the business community, that this was not something that was going to come at the expense of our reputation. In fact, it was building reputation in a new way that did differentiate us from other universities. And I'm happy to say we were in the top 10 in that ranking generally. We finished in the top 10 in areas like climate action, local and aquatic ecosystems, peace, justice, and strong institutions. I don't want to hold out that ranking as being determinative, but it was certainly suggestive and helpful in validating the vision and the work that we had done. So a couple more diagrams. This is the diagram of the planning framework in which the university operated. And I guess what's significant about it is you'll see the vision is right at the center. Vision, mission, underlying principles, that's the vision. The priorities, that the university-wide priorities that come out of that, goals, strategies, indicators. And then, and this is, I think, probably what differentiates it from almost every other university in Canada, at least, is you have 3 higher level plans that are interrelated. Academic, no surprise there. Research, no surprise there. But community engagement has co-equal status. And so When you look at an academic plan, you think, how does it relate to the research goals and the community engagement goals? You look at research, you ask the same of the academic and community engagement. And of course, looking at community engagement, the community engagement plan has to reference its connection to the academic and research goals. And then the faculty and department plans have to relate or are supposed to relate to those higher level plans and goals. And then we have more operational plans around that. But I found this framework a really useful framework. A lot of universities will redo their strategic plan or their strategic roadmap once every 5 years. We didn't. Each of these plans was updated at a different time. And so we would learn and we would pick up, we would change and we would adapt. So you do the academic plan 1 year, 2 years later, do the research plan, it would change because of what had happened in the academic plan and then the community engagement plan. And so gradually the planning process started to reflect more and more the aspirations of the vision as we went forward, and the faculties then started to fall into that. In terms of the structure of the university, not nearly as ambitious as what's being planned here. We did not try to rework the structure of faculties, but we did allocate amongst the three vice presidents who oversaw those three high priorities some of the initiatives. This gives you a sense of how the initiatives fell with primary responsibility, but they all interrelate with primary responsibility to the vice president, external responsible, the primary responsibility for community engagement, vice president research, and vice president academic. But the idea is all three are supposed to work together. They're not supposed to work in isolation, because the whole plan's theory is it's the interrelationship of these three. So they work as a team in partnership with the president and other executive members of the university. Now, the other question one might ask is, well, what happens? That's great, Andrew, and knowing you're no longer president, does this thing going to last? I remember fundraising once from a donor for some of our major community engagement initiatives. And he said, well, Andrew, I'm prepared to support it now. I said, well, would you create an endowment? He said, no, because this won't last. He said, I mean, I know you're passionate about it. It won't last. Well, so far the news is good. My successor has understandably and necessarily set some new directions and taken some exciting new initiatives. But she has, I'm pleased to say, done so still in the spirit of and very much driven by the vision of the Engage University. And I'm going to end with a little self-promotional evidence of that in a second. But I guess I just want to say I hope this presentation has at least given you a sense of how of the history and process that led to that vision, as well as an account of how that vision has added some value to the university and the communities we serve. I really want to emphasize again that these are not transferable lessons. Each institution has to do it in its own way and try to push its own envelopes and try to gain value where it can in ways that are appropriate to it as an institution and the communities it serves. But I think we did reasonably well in that score. And I think the fact that the university is still boasting about it, as you're about to see, and is still doing well in those questionable rankings is further evidence of that. So here goes with a video that just came out 2 weeks ago from the university. So whether or not you buy the hype, and I'm not asking you to, I hope that at least provides some validation of the sense that given this university is still boasting about being an engaged university and trying to demonstrate its success at doing so, it suggests that the changes that were made, in fact, do have some enduring value, and that the future of the university will continue to reflect, with change and modification, the values of an engaged university, albeit a major research university, very different than your university, but one that aspires to try to really make a difference in every way it can, in a positive way, for the communities it serves.